And God blessed Jerusalem, the eternal, undivided capital of Israel. The night began like any other in the sacred city, where every stone whispers of history and every shadow carries the weight of prophecy. From his official residence, Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's leader, was immersed in the pressing demands of governance. Beyond his windows, the holy city glittered under a canopy of stars, serene yet ever watchful. But that night was destined to be far from ordinary. As he pored over a stack of national security documents, an unfamiliar sensation crept over him. It wasn't fatigue but something deeper, an inexplicable tug urging him to step away. Almost instinctively, he obeyed the call, retreating into stillness and prayer. Words of scripture rose in his mind, a familiar source of solace. He who keeps Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Closing his eyes, he sought clarity, but instead of peace, the world around him vanished. In its place came a light, blindingly bright yet strangely calming, that surrounded him entirely. When the brilliance softened, he found himself no longer in his office but standing in an endless valley, vast, barren, and hauntingly quiet. The air seemed charged with an energy he couldn't define. In the distance, a figure emerged, radiating a light not of this world. The figure remained still, yet its presence was magnetic, exuding a purpose that reached across the valley. A voice spoke, loud and resonant, rich with authority. "Benjamin," it began, and in that instant, everything changed. This was no mere vision. It was a summons, a divine encounter meant to redefine his understanding of the world and his role in it. I am the one who has guarded this land since the beginning of time. You are the leader of Israel, but your calling extends beyond governance. You are to be a witness to the signs of the times, a herald for my people. Netanyahu's heart pounded as the weight of the moment bore down on him. He recognized the voice as divine, undeniable, and commanding. The figure continued, "Look at what lies ahead." Turning, Netanyahu beheld a harrowing sight. Nations gathering against Israel, armies advancing, and chaos spreading like a dark shadow across the earth. Among the hostile forces, alliances that seemed impossible were now united against God's chosen people. "This is what is coming," the figure declared. The time of the prophecies is at hand. The battle of Armageddon approaches, as it is written, and they gathered them together to the place called in Hebrew, Armageddon, Revelation 16 verse 16. "But do not fear, for I am the Lord, and my word stands firm. Those who trust in me will be protected." Amid the terror of the vision, a beacon of hope appeared. A light, brighter than anything he had seen, descended from the heavens. Within it, a host of angels emerged, and at their center stood a resplendent figure, clothed in unapproachable glory. Netanyahu recognized him at once, the Messiah. "I will return," the Messiah declared, "and my feet will stand on this mountain as I promised." In that day, his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, which faces Jerusalem on the east, Zechariah 14 verse 4, Overcome with reverence, Netanyahu fell to his knees, his heart overwhelmed by the gravity of the moment. He understood that his calling was not merely political but spiritual, a preparation for the fulfillment of God's ultimate plan. When the vision faded, he found himself back in his office. Yet, everything within him had changed. The following day, Netanyahu convened a special meeting with Israel's spiritual advisors and religious leaders. With deep emotion, he recounted his divine encounter. Some reacted with skepticism, others with awe, but all felt the weight of his words. "I am not here merely as a political leader," he declared. "I am here as a servant of Israel and a witness to what is to come. We must turn to God, for the times ahead will be challenging. But the Lord has promised, and it shall come to pass that everyone who calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved." The room was silent, but the message resounded in the hearts of all present. This was more than a call to action, it was a call to faith. In the days to come, Jerusalem would stand as it always had, a city of prophecy, destiny, and divine purpose. The Lord shall be with Israel, Joel 2 verse 32. From that day forward, Benjamin Netanyahu devoted himself not only to his political duties but also to the spiritual calling he believed had been placed upon him. He sought to prepare the nation of Israel for the fulfillment of prophecy, leading with unwavering faith and courage. Netanyahu knew the challenges ahead would be immense, but he also trusted that God's hand was upon Israel, as it had always been throughout its history. Tensions among nations had reached a boiling point, and Netanyahu was acutely aware that Israel stood at the center of a prophetic storm. One evening, as he sat in silent meditation, something extraordinary occurred. A profound divine presence enveloped him, a feeling so powerful it was as though the Lord himself stood beside him, speaking directly to his soul. Suddenly, a vision overtook him. The heavens parted, and a thunderous voice proclaimed, Benjamin, listen. Hear the word of the Lord of hosts. The time draws near. The war to end all wars is coming, when all nations will rise against Israel, as it is written, when the 1,000 years are ended, Satan will be released from his prison and will go out to deceive the nations in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them for battle, Revelation 20 verses 7-8. Netanyahu knew this was no dream, it was a divine revelation, foretelling the fate of his nation. A deep sense of awe, mingled with the heavy weight of responsibility, settled over him. The Lord spoke further, mentioning something mysterious, Wilson's Arkansas the meaning was unclear, but Netanyahu sensed it was tied to a prophecy on the brink of fulfillment. In the days that followed, as he prayed and sought understanding, the pieces began to come together. Wilson's Ark was both a symbol of Israel's storied past and a key to its prophetic future, a connection between history and destiny. Netanyahu recalled an ancient prophecy that spoke of this ark as a harbinger of trials and triumphs to come. Then the unthinkable happened. In the early hours of the morning, air raid sirens shattered the silence. Iran had launched 300 missiles aimed directly at Israel. The scale of the attack was unprecedented, dwarfing anything Israel had ever faced. For a moment, Netanyahu froze. The Iron Dome defense system roared into action, intercepting many missiles, but the sheer number threatened to overwhelm its capacity. In the crisis room, Netanyahu watched the assault unfold on live screens, his mind racing back to the Lord's words. Was this the beginning of the foretold battle? Was this the moment described in Revelation, when the nations would gather against Israel? Drawing strength from God's promises, he clung to the words of Isaiah 41 verse 10. Fear not, for I am with you, be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Amid the chaos, Netanyahu summoned both his military and spiritual advisors. His voice carried urgency but also an unshakable resolve. This is not merely a physical battle, it is spiritual warfare. We are fighting against forces beyond what we can see, a struggle between light and darkness as foretold. Explosions lit up the sky, the terror of war stark and undeniable. Yet, amid the destruction, something miraculous unfolded. Many missiles were intercepted, while others inexplicably veered off course, as though shielded by an invisible force. It is the Lord Almighty who fights for us, Netanyahu declared, his faith unshaken even in the face of overwhelming odds. When calm returned, Netanyahu addressed the people of Israel in a live broadcast. His voice was steady but charged with emotion, each word carrying the weight of the moment. People of Israel, he began, his tone resolute and reverent. We are living in times of prophecy. The Lord has shown me what lies ahead. The nations will rise against us, but do not fear, for he has promised us this. I will fight against your enemies. Our strength does not come from weapons or armies alone, but from our trust in the Almighty. Stand firm, my people, for the Lord is with us. Call upon his name, and he will deliver us, as it is written. And it shall come to pass that everyone who calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. Joel 2 verse 32. The nation listened, gripped by the magnitude of his words. Though the challenges ahead loomed large, Netanyahu's declaration of faith inspired courage and unity among the people of Israel. They stood together, prepared to face whatever lay ahead, trusting in the eternal promise that the Lord would uphold his chosen people. "And I will save your children," Netanyahu declared, his voice imbued with solemnity as he spoke of Wilson's Arch. Its name, once a historical reference, now carried a profound and prophetic weight. "This is not merely a symbol of history," he continued. It is a sign for our future, a bridge between what was and what will be, a testament to the plans God has for us." His words conveyed a defiant hope in the face of growing adversity. "This war," he said, his conviction resonating far beyond the confines of the broadcast, "is not the end. It is the dawn of something greater. The Lord's purpose for Israel remains unbroken and unshaken." Reactions from around the world were swift. Some nations condemned Iran's attack, while others remained silent, their inactions speaking volumes. Netanyahu, however, understood that this missile strike was only the beginning. The battle ahead was not solely physical, it was spiritual, a war fought in realms unseen. As Netanyahu sought the Lord's guidance, he realized the missile strike was more than just an act of aggression. It was a signal, an awakening. Wilson's Arch, the miraculous protection of the nation, and the divine words he had heard all converged into one undeniable truth. Prophecy was unfolding before their eyes. Late one evening, alone in his Jerusalem office, Netanyahu felt the city's ancient rhythm, a quiet but persistent pulse echoing with promises made long ago. The weight of his role pressed heavily on him, yet amidst the burden, he felt an inexplicable peace, knowing he was part of something far greater. As he prayed, the presence of the Lord enveloped him once more. This time, it was not through words but through a profound stillness that silenced even his doubts. Then, a voice spoke to his soul, each word as clear as if etched into the air. Benjamin, the time is near. The nations will rise against Israel, but my plans for my people will not be shaken. The message, though brief, carried the weight of eternity. Netanyahu trembled, not in fear, but in awe. He recognized that God's ways often revealed themselves piece by piece, like fragments of a greater tapestry. He recalled the Apostle Paul's words, "For we know in part, and we prophesy in part." 1 Corinthians 13 verse 9. This revelation was yet another fragment of that divine puzzle, one that both burdened and elevated him. His role was no longer simply to lead but to serve as a steward of prophecy, bearing the weight of Israel's destiny on his shoulders. In the days that followed, the phrase Wilson's Arch refused to leave Netanyahu's mind. He delved into its history, uncovering its significance in ancient Jerusalem, a bridge that once connected the sacred Temple Mount to the upper city. It wasn't merely stone and structure, it was a symbol, a bridge between heaven's purpose and earth's reality. A memory stirred within him. Years earlier, a prophetic word had mentioned Wilson's Arch as a sign, pointing to a time when its meaning would become clear. Netanyahu realized that moment was now. The arch was more than a historical relic. It was a call from God, a signal to believers everywhere that a pivotal time was at hand. As Paul wrote, "Follow the way of love and eagerly desire gifts of the Spirit, especially prophecy." 1 Corinthians 14 verse 1. This revelation was not for Netanyahu alone, it was for all who had ears to hear. Gathering his most trusted advisors and spiritual leaders in a quiet chamber, he shared the vision and the divine message he had received. "The nations will gather against us," he began, his voice steady and filled with conviction. But Wilson's Arch is a sign, a connection between our history and the promises yet to be fulfilled. Israel is that bridge, a nation standing between heaven and earth. He quoted scripture to anchor their faith. "Though the mountains be shaken, my covenant of peace will not be removed." Isaiah 54 verse 10. Netanyahu urged unity and action. This word is not for me alone. It is for Israel and for believers around the world. We must prepare, pray, and stand firm as God's people. The room fell silent, heavy with the gravity of his message. Each person present felt the weight of the moment, a calling not just to defend their nation but to fulfill a greater purpose ordained by God himself. Netanyahu's voice carried more than authority, it resonated with purpose. In the weeks that followed, his speeches took on a tone of profound urgency, grounded in faith and history. No longer just a political leader, he seemed to have become a vessel for something far greater. "We are not here by chance," he declared during a live address. The God of our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, has carried us to this moment. As he was faithful before, so he will be faithful again. Wilson's arch became a central theme in Netanyahu's words. To him, it was more than an ancient structure. It was a metaphor, a bridge connecting history to destiny. This arch reminds us that the past is not separate from the future, he explained. It calls us to draw strength from where we've been, even as we walk toward what is promised. Netanyahu's conviction wasn't mere rhetoric, it was deeply rooted in Scripture. He often turned to the promises of God, quoting, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Jeremiah 29 verse 11. One quiet evening, while deep in prayer, a vision came to him so vivid it left him breathless. He saw Wilson's arch glowing, its stones lit from within by a divine light. Though he had passed by it countless times, the arch now seemed alive with meaning. In the stillness of his spirit, he heard the Lord's voice. This arch is like the prayers of my people. It holds up this nation, carrying it through the storms that are yet to come. The words humbled Netanyahu. He realized that the prayers of believers, whether whispered in solitude or cried out in desperation, were an unseen yet vital force, as essential to Israel's survival as any defense system. Just as the arch once supported a bridge to the Temple Mount, these prayers upheld the nation against forces both seen and unseen. In the days that followed, Netanyahu began to notice patterns, prophetic warnings aligning with the violence sweeping across Israel. These events were sobering, yet they affirmed his belief that God was moving even amidst the chaos. When Netanyahu addressed the nation, his words carried the weight of both challenge and hope. "These are difficult times," he acknowledged, his voice steady yet compassionate. But this is not the end. The Lord has promised to be with us through every trial, as it is written, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you." Isaiah 43 verse 2. He cautioned against drawing hasty conclusions. "It's easy to look at these events and think we are at the final chapter," he said. But the Lord's plans are not ours to rush or define. We must wait, trust, and remain faithful, knowing his timing is perfect. October 7th began unremarkably but ended as a day Israel would never forget. The wail of emergency sirens shattered the calm as reports confirmed the unthinkable: 300 missiles fired from Iran, all aimed at Israel. For a moment, Netanyahu stood motionless, absorbing the gravity of the attack. This was not merely an escalation, it was a calculated assault designed to overwhelm even Israel's formidable defenses, including the Iron Dome. In the crisis room, surrounded by advisors and flickering screens, Netanyahu's thoughts turned inward. Is this the moment God spoke of? Is prophecy unfolding before my eyes? Wilson's arch, a relic of history, suddenly felt alive with urgency and purpose, a symbol of the prayers that had always sustained Israel. Later that day, Netanyahu convened his closest advisors and spiritual leaders. His voice, steady yet filled with urgency, carried a message of faith. "This is bigger than missiles or defense systems," he said. The Lord revealed the importance of prayer, and now I see why. Wilson's arch isn't just history, it's a reminder. The prayers of God's people hold this nation together. Without them, we will falter. He met their eyes one by one. Allies may waver, diplomacy may fail, but the prayers of the faithful must remain steadfast. Though the storm raged on, Netanyahu stood firm, carrying the conviction that Israel's true strength came from something far greater than its defenses. It came from God's promises and the prayers that upheld them.